welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Back at it with another video. This is going to be more of my astro musings, just some hot takes that I have and some thoughts and personal reflections on the Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Aries. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do click the subscription button below or the bell button below. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know how are you feeling with this transit that is setting up. I have made several videos, so I did a video that was all about Jupiter's transit through the sign of Aries, world predictions and how it's going to affect the signs, and I also rapped a little bit recently about Mars going into Aries, but I feel like each and every one of these transits need to be broken down and looked at separately because they're a part of a bigger storyline that's kind of setting up. So this might be more of my, philosophical views of the transit. Obviously, I touch on the Mars-Jupiter conjunction a little bit in both videos, and that it's this fusion or this merger, right, of both Jupiter's sense of beliefs, faith, expansion, good luck, optimism, in the sign of Aries, which really much more relates to oneself and our natural instinctual drives, with the conjunction of Mars in Aries. So this is a new Jupiter cycle, a new Mars cycle. They're syncing up together. And today I want to talk to you guys more so about courage. Like I said, this is going to be more like a philosophical view. So courage, it's a really significant word right now. It's a really important topic. And obviously this is going to hit home for different people in different areas of your life. That's what's so amazing about astrology, is that even though it can talk about things very generally, right? Mars entering Aries, there's going to be lots of heat and aggression and frustration. But when we look at it more in the sense of the astrological weather that we're going to be walking through, astrology quite literally predicts the incoming storms or clouds or temperatures, so to say, cosmically. So when we make these predictions, while astrology may seem very general, the more that you actually learn about astrology in your natal horoscope, you can have a better understanding of what is setting up in specific areas of your life. And that is what makes kind of armchair, maybe basic magazine horoscopes very, very different than really understanding the language of astrology and the transits that are going on in your own natal chart. Now, obviously, we're all at different ends of the spectrum in terms of understanding this. That's why I've really made the decision to focus more on education on my channel. Obviously, I'm doing forecasts, but I'm also going deep into explaining the more kind of spiritual side of some of the transits and the astrological occurrences that are taking place this year, because we are all growing. We're all leveling up. We've got a lot of Jupiter-Mars energy, which is helping us focus on courage and personal growth, self-expansion, knowledge, travel. And we also have quite a few Uranus transits that are setting up also over the summer. That's encouraging all of us to be more unique individuals, to be tuning into our personal value system, to be upgrading what it is that we want to possess, what we find beautiful, attractive, or valuable, right? So there's a great deal of change happening, and I'm very excited because I feel like, of course, the Mars-Jupiter transit had to kind of coincide with all of the energies that are kind of taking place right now. So bringing this back, I'm going to talk to you guys first about the specific dates, and then I'm going to get into my lecture. Mars will be coming into conjunction with Jupiter in the sign of Aries, and this will be taking place very strongly from about May 28th through the 30th. Now, when the conjunctions happen, it doesn't always mean that something is playing out immediately. I think, just reflecting on the last couple of days, as soon as Mars leaves Pisces and it's going into Aries, and we also see the moon's ingress into Aries, unfortunately, we saw a school shooting. Well, in America, that's nothing new. I would have to say that I think it had less to do with Mars and the moon in Aries. I think it had more to do with the fact that Mars was in a Jupiter sign. It was in the anaretic degree, so it was 29 degrees of Pisces, which we can sometimes see loss of life in, especially in Pisces, or sacrifices. And we saw, you know, Jupiter in a Mars sign. So there was some mutual reception going on between both of those planets. It didn't really spread like wildfire until we saw the moon ingress into Aries and come into conjunction with Mars. And obviously we saw lots of heated discussions about firearms, right? You know, self-defense, and that conjunction that it also made to Jupiter is everybody's opinions in regards to gun laws and what rights we have. And you know, I'm not gonna get into it, because part of me feels like, unfortunately, I believe that, you know, I don't take any pleasure in being like, oh, I predicted this, because I don't think anybody could have predicted this, but it makes sense looking at it, looking back. And part of me wonders, is the astrology playing out quite literally to get everybody fired and heated up so they can all be sharing and discussing their personal beliefs and their opinions when it comes to our individual rights? Mars and Jupiter in Aries. Specifically legally, and also I believe how this relates to the Second Amendment, at least here in the United States. Those of you guys who are not aware of what the Second Amendment is, the Second Amendment explained a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, to the right of the people, and to bear arms shall not be infringed upon. AKA, we have the right to bear arms. Individuals are able to have that as a means of self-defense. Right? So it's interesting that this conjunction is going to be taking place in just a matter of days. It's going to be at 3 degrees of Aries, which is very much a Gemini type degree. So even though it's in the sign of Aries, relating to war, self-defense, conflict, reactions, things that go bang, it's going to be in a Gemini degree, which deals with hands, right? It deals with documents, it deals with possibly guns, meetings, local meetings about gun laws and rights and activists. So we're going to see extreme feelings on both sides. I think with Jupiter getting involved, it's going to be about law and lawmakers, younger people, youth, education, about weapons, and schools, specifically early education. So I think, you know, the fact that this happened at an elementary school, perhaps maybe we're going to be looking at elementary schools and middle schools. Not saying it's not limited to high schools, but, you know, it's becoming increasingly more evident that this isn't just taking place on high school and college campuses. Now we're seeing this taking place in early education centers, which, you know, honestly, it's really sad. You know, I don't want to be somebody who wants to make comments on things as soon as it comes out. That's why I didn't really want to talk about it. I didn't feel the need to talk about it. I think that I've kind of taken the method of sitting and just kind of reflecting on it. You know, I don't have children. I have lots of friends who have younger people. Certainly I have younger family members and stuff in my family. But I feel like in some ways this is less about Aries. This was more about Pisces. And the fact that this is really going on behind the scenes. And it's also a bigger look at mental health. Videos, pictures, you know, from what I understand, there were posts that was going on from the shooter just prior to the actual attack, right? And is it a crisis? Is this a crisis also of faith and our inability to be willing to kind of really see what's going on and stand up and do something? Was just watching like a video of like Beto, you know, in Texas, you know, flipping out and going off on the meeting that they were having and kind of saying like, this is on you. It's really unfortunate, and I feel like I didn't want to jump into the discussion because I feel like there is a need to actually be able to mourn and really just kind of reflect on the fact that like this is something that needs to change. You know, here in the United States, I think we have more, definitely more shootings and school shootings more than anywhere else on the planet. I would be very surprised if anybody else has different statistics than what I have seen. But my point is that when these events are taking place, it's not always linked to the conjunction, because the conjunction has not even begun yet. The conjunction creates a fusion of the two planets, which through a retrograde, which we will see, it will reactivate these points. So Jupiter being about you know, self-righteousness, I think in Aries is everybody's going to have an opinion, everybody's going to have their own belief system, everybody's going to have their own set of laws and philosophies, and Mars gets us really passionate and heated up about what it is that we think and what we have to say. So if you guys want to see more about that, go and check out my Mars and Aries video or my Jupiter and Aries video. Specifically, I think the reactivations are going to come through the Jupiter retrograde, because we're going to see Jupiter get up to about 8 degrees of Aries this year, I believe, 7 or 8 degrees. So it will reactivate this conjunction. So the actual conjunction, like I said, is going to be at 3 degrees of Aries. So sometime between September 24th and early October of 2022, Jupiter will retrograde back over these degrees. And I feel like with Jupiter's retrograde motion, it's reflecting and integrating. We might see like a second chapter to some things that we are actually starting and initiating over the next week. So there may be legal changes, law changes. That may be a heated topic, obviously, during midterm elections. As is other things. You know, the Mars-Jupiter is not limited purely to just anything that has to do with acts of violence, but I think it has to do with youth and life and younger people. Certainly, I think we're going to see more about abortion that's coming up as well, and just individual rights. You know, I've seen an uptick recently, or even over the last week, of just a lot of people in some of my online groups that are posting about seminars and online events about educating individuals about the law, you know, what we may not be aware of when it comes to our own personal rights, and where we can have a tendency to actually find ourselves in some pretty significant predicaments if we're not educating ourselves. You know, Congress and any session that we're seeing that's going on a federal level, it's you hear all this rhetoric about by the people for the people, and you know what we're doing, and we're showing up and being representatives for, you know, individuals of our nation. But people are not getting involved. People are not seeing that they're going through the motions, but we're not actually seeing representation. And to some extent, where does that fall on us as individuals for not participating and getting involved, not learning about the law itself, you know, and how it applies to us, and not also reflecting on history and what has happened historically in the past, and where there was a need to kind of stand up and hold ourselves accountable for the change that we would like to see in this nation. On January 14th, 2022, and then this will be pretty much January 14th, 2023. So it'll be the 14th of January, 2023 through the 22nd of January, 2023. This is when Jupiter comes back. It's going to make its next hit, and it's going to be in direct contact with this same conjunction. So this is going to reactivate this point for the third time, and it's a return to whatever we have initiated and started perhaps over this next week. So in layman's terms, things are, you know, heating up. We're going to see lots of action. We're going to see lots of motivation. We're going to see lots of people needing to be more courageous and willing to initiate and learn something new, experience something new, expand in some way, and really tune into what our own personal beliefs are. As long as we're taking those actions, we're going to be really working on integrating that more in the fall. And we may see it really fully unfold to its true potential, both in early January of 2023, but I also believe in, you know, the end of March going into April of 2023 as well. When the sun activates this point, we start to kind of realize why we had to do what we had to do in our own personal lives or out in the world. So sorry, Mercury retrograde moment. I know I gave you guys a lot of dates. September 24th through early October of 2022. Then again, January 14th through January 22nd of 2023. And that's why I'm saying I do expect more events. I do expect more conflict and kind of hostile behavior. I do expect people to start mobilizing, you know, people to start really kind of going like, you know what, that's it. I'm going to join a cause. I'm going to get involved. I've heard a number of people talk to me about them wanting to go and actually like join movements and protests and be a part of either learning more about handling firearms or the actual process of being involved in educating people about like background checks and the need to like educate people how to handle firearms, right? Because obviously if we're going to be using these weapons, which personally I'm not a fan of, but it is what it is, you know, if it's going to be something that is a part of our right as Americans, there is a personal duty to make sure that you are educated and you really know what you're doing. And I think a lot of that is also going to come from just major changes to the system. I also question whether or not there is going to be like veterans and people who are experienced who are going to start getting involved in schools, who are going to be volunteering to go in and either, educate educators on, tactics and things to be able to diffuse some of these situations. God forbid it were to happen. I also have a feeling that this is possibly going to be about educating younger people about, mental health and mental health issues and the need to kind of speak up and say something if they suspect something is going on, or if they themselves are having some of these thoughts that may possibly lead to some of these tragic events. Okay, so enough with that. I feel like it's important to talk about it, but I don't want to get lost in that. I don't want to give energy to getting angry about it. I don't want to upset people who I know, I've heard from so many people have reached out to me and asked me, what do you think about this? Is this Mars and Jupiter and Aries? And I'm like, no, this is, yes, the astrology does to some extent kind of suggest that there is some intense exchanges going on in the world, but it does not in any way justify or make it okay. A lot of people who have children, a lot of people who are educators, teachers, involved in, education in general, have been extremely distraught and beside themselves because of the amount of shootings, I think, that we're seeing in the uptick that's taking place, and now with even, younger aged children. So I don't want to focus on that too much. I want to focus more on holding space for people, reflecting on things. I have an Aries moon. I've said this a couple times. And I have noticed with the planets moving into Aries, I've definitely felt that kind of emotional intensity and that pressure and the impulse to react, to snap. And I know that that's only going to continue over the next month or so with some of the Mars transits and the squares to Pluto. And I have learned that just being a very Mars-heavy person myself, you can't fight fire with fire. You just can't do that. That's not how the world works. We're not going to see things get better. When we're arguing with other people, oftentimes we're not listening. There is a sense of wanting to kind of shout over one another or just waiting to talk. And I have found that just for me personally, a practice of learning to be more understanding and accepting and not stroking the fires of what can be some very intense emotions and feelings is just being quiet. Just being quiet and just holding space. But also knowing that these things that happened are not happening in vain, especially looking at that transit of that 29 degrees Mars, that was this to some extent some kind of sacrifice? I know that sounds terrible, but why do these things happen? People ask me that all the time. Why do these things happen? I'm not God, I don't have the answers. But I can tell you that some of these things that take place, just reflecting on some of the violence that's happened over the last couple of years, the George Floyd stuff that took place, regardless of where you stand on that, or Black Lives Matter, or, the justification for some of the riots that took place. The fact is that it created a very emotional wave of events and an uprising where people started to really tune into the fact that, people are dying, people are in pain. We're not really speaking up for those who need assistance. And it requires us to practice a level of self-awareness, involvement, and also courage if we want to create change. So my lecture today is more revolving around courage. Courage is a big word, It helps, build strength instead of weakness. And I think that that's something that we don't realize, is that it takes a lot to be courageous. It sometimes can take people years to be able to build up the courage to make moves, leave marriages, change jobs. But in the end, it's here to help us build strength instead of weakness. So it takes courageous people and people who are willing to stand up to some of these really significant topics to be able to help create change, right? Courage also makes you create change instead of complaints. And rather than sitting around talking about it or being keyboard warriors and hiding behind a screen and talking about what we should or shouldn't be doing, courage encourages us to get involved and create these changes that need to be changed. And that's why Mars does so incredibly well in the sign of Aries, because it initiates, it's independent. I think with the conjunction of Jupiter, it's inspiring us to be willing to want to create change so badly that we're willing to kind of break off and go our own way, because we're so instinctually aware of the need to initiate these changes, right? I guess integrity would be a big word to go along with this conversation, but that's for another lecture. So let's be focused on creating change instead of complaining. That's something else that I would encourage you guys to do. Courage also gives us the ability to find direction instead of confusion and getting lost in the sea of opinions or lost in the sea of chaos or the angry mob complex, right? Like there is an ability for us to tune into our courage and our personal belief system to allow us to redirect where we're going in our life, right? In any capacity. So like I said, this is going to hit differently for everybody. Just me personally, you know, courage gets me out of bed in the morning. When I don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning, it really it pushes me to get up and start my day and to be willing to be very committed to my routine, to be very committed to my belief system. And sometimes it's really hard, you know, day in, day out, talking to people about some really heavy topics. You know, there's a lot going on in the cosmos right now, and there's a lot of people that are really struggling. And I think that it takes a lot of courage for me to keep showing up and to keep doing this. You know, I haven't really talked about it, but a couple years ago when I dropped off YouTube, I stopped doing it because I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the comments. I couldn't handle the opinions. I couldn't handle the constant pressure and the feeling like I needed to show up. It was just too much for me. And I had to kind of make a big decision to either segue and go deeper into continuing my studies and practicing, kind of working behind the scenes and really needing to do a lot of work on myself, or pushing myself to the brink of not being able to continue doing what I was doing just because I was putting out videos. I guess in retrospect now, 4 years later, probably the best decision that I made, but that took a lot of courage for me to do that. It's taken a lot of courage for me to talk about it. You know, it's hard to put yourself out there and be in a position of giving people answers and helping people for a living. But by the same token, it's also what inspires me to keep going, because I feel like I get to bear witness in the process of a lot of people making a lot of really big, courageous life changes, which in turn inspires me to want to do the same. Courage is what got me out of a 4-year relationship that I thought was it, that I thought was perfect. And it wasn't. And it was really difficult to make that decision a couple of years ago because I felt like I was in a position in my life where I really had to kind of commit to something, and that maybe the issues were me, and that I wasn't willing to make sacrifices, and I had to make some big decisions around my 30th birthday to be willing to kind of go out my own way and be on my own, which was really scary for me, and it was really difficult. But I realized that it was probably one of the best decisions that I could have made, because it helped me redevelop the relationship with myself, and taught me how strong I was and how capable I was, and also that I deserved something so much better. And that's no, disservice or, talking badly about the other person, but just realizing that there was more to life than what I was experiencing, and that I needed to be able to really go and find myself before I could find somebody who was really going to appreciate me for who I was. And then in turn, it materialized as me, picking up and deciding that I was going to move and make a lot of changes to my professional life as well, and kind of choose what was going to be a very simple life, And in the process of making that move and deciding, I'm going to pick up and leave Los Angeles, I was trying to move to the Pacific Northwest. I was going to go and get a house and live by myself in the forest, and the universe had other plans, and connected me to my Jupiter and Aries husband, who was somebody who I actually met 8 or 9 years prior, who I dated in my early 20s. And both of us kind of had to go through this, this really long and trying period where, we both kind of had a very similar experience and some very difficult relationship dynamics, and also had to kind of go and grow up and have experiences and kind of figure out our purpose. And then in some weird serendipitous way, through the Mars retrograde, came back together. And it really gave me a sense of like vindication and feeling like, yeah, you know what, I made the right decision. Going out on my own and making the decision to pick up and leave and to be independent was more so a test, I think, for the universe, just kind of sending that signal and kind of being like, you know what, it's okay, you know, I can go, I can be on my own. And it was like kind of that moment of passing the test, which got me on the path, you know, it was really scary for me. That's all I can say. It was really scary for me to make that decision. I don't know if those of you guys who just like find yourself in a relationship where you're just, you know, you can't stand it, but you're too afraid to leave, you know, Libra rising problems. That's where I was at. And I feel like, it wasn't until I really took that leap of faith that, I got to kind of level up and then receive the relationship with somebody who also equally had to do the same thing. And where, having been in a relationship for almost 5 years and feeling like I was spinning my wheels, not going anywhere, I reconnected with my husband, and, you know, within 6 months, he was like, let's move in together, you know, and I was like, yeah, let's do that, you know, and then we got engaged, and within a year we got married, you know, so many people are going to make very quick moves and changes and shifts and jumps into things this year that, to some extent, some of these things may be a little rushed, right? We're going to see the Jupiter retrograde happen several times, and we'll get time to integrate. But the Mars-Jupiter is this instinctual feeling to take a leap of faith, right? To jump into something, to get started, even though you don't know how it's going to pan out. And that's the experience that I had when I was having some Jupiter-Mars, you know, aspects myself. It was, am I going to be willing to jump into this relationship with somebody who I really haven't seen for 8 or 9 years? Am I going to move my life and my business to another state? You know, I've been so used to being on my own, you know, 30 years. And the better part of, even though I was in a relationship with somebody else, it was all of my 20s, you know, living on my own, being independent, supporting myself, and putting my heart and soul into what I was doing for a living, and then having to, in some ways, make some sacrifices for another person. And I didn't know how it was going to go, but it ended up being the best thing ever, because in turn, that decision also really impacted my view of like life in general, like what I was capable of. And he is 100% the reason why I got back on YouTube. So big thank you to him. Courage helped me start a business that I never thought that I had in me. Big time. I've talked about this briefly here and there. I've talked about it on some of my earlier podcasts that I did a couple years ago, but long story short, I feel like courage pushed me to this point where I finally was saying to myself, after a year or two of juggling a full-time job and also doing readings, that I just couldn't do it anymore. And I knew that something had to give. I wasn't going to be able to do both. And I made probably one of the most scary and courageous decisions that I've ever made, where I said, you know what, I'm going to quit my job. I'm giving myself a year. I'm going to see if I can do this. And I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what was going to happen. This was a long time ago. This was in 2013. And I walked away from a pretty promising, you know, kind of medical career that was going to do very well, but I knew ultimately it was not my calling. And then I really wanted to help people, but I didn't really know how this whole like reading tarot or reading astrology thing was going to kind of pan out, and it was still kind of weird. And I started an Instagram, and I started a Facebook, and I started doing group readings, and it just kind of grew. And in that year, it was extremely scary and very thrilling and exhilarating all at the same time, because things were happening very quickly, and I had to kind of just get with it, you know, and just be like, all right, you know, life is coming at me, but at least it's exciting. And that decision to start my business and start Beyond the Veil, I think was probably something that I never ever thought I would be capable of doing. And yet, you know, what is it, 9 years later, here I am. Courage is what got me out of a life that I became complacent to. Going through the motions, you know, just I get in my car, I drive, I go to this job, I work there for 8 hours, I get in the car, commute an hour back. You know, maybe if I'm lucky, I get to go out and see friends and have dinner and maybe go to the mall and go shopping and stay in this, you know, small kind of like micro bubble that was my life. And I think that it takes a lot of courage to create change, you know, to break out of your comfort zone, to do something that's very different, to be in another space or a place, or to join a new group of people, you know, to join a network, or ask somebody, do you want to be my friend? Mars and Jupiter and Aries is very much about getting out of our comfort zone. And I think that's the first step. of acknowledging that while you can go through the motions, there's a big world out there, and there's lots of opportunity, and there's lots of new people and new experiences that you can experience if you're willing to take the first few steps, right? So hopefully you guys can use this transit to break out of that complacency and break out of routine, you know, especially if you've been feeling like your life has been like Groundhog's Day. I don't know about you, but that's how things have been kind of feeling with all these transits in Pisces. And, you know, I just reflect on this and I think back to what has happened over the last, you know, 7 or 8 years. I mean, I thought that everything was kind of in its place. I was like, I'm going through the motions, you know. I live in LA. I have a relationship. I have a business. You know, this is good enough. You know, how could I not be happy? You know, I felt guilty for a while, and I asked myself, am I being ungrateful? That's something that I sat with for a very long time. And I don't know, I just like woke up one morning and I realized a lot of these things that I was doing, am I doing it because it looks good? You know, and that's a really difficult thing to admit. Am I doing it because it looks good? Do I feel like I need to have a relationship because I should be in a relationship because I'm almost 30? Do I feel like I need to maintain a certain kind of lifestyle because I live in Southern California and I want people to think that, you know, my life is this, 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 and this? And a lot of that is just toxicity, I think, connected to social media toxicity of having lived in LA for so long. Those of you guys who live there, you know, it's like a very warped sense of reality, and it isn't until you get out of there that you start realizing that the rest of the country is not like this. And I think that a lot of it looked perfect from the outside. It looked very courageous from the outside. It looked adventurous and fun and different and unique. And I'm not discrediting some of the stuff that I did do right, but I think in the inside, I realized that I had completely lost myself, you know? How many of you guys out there have ever felt lost or confused? Do some of you guys have a job that you're bored at? Are you in a relationship that you're not happy in? What else are you doing that's not making you happy? That's what I want you to ask yourself right now. You know, we're surrounded by people and media and environments and social media apps that tell us what to do, what will make us happy, what we can buy, what we can wear, and what the right thing to do is, what the right job is, the best car, the best place to go, the best clothes to wear, who to hang out with. We let ourselves be influenced by what other people think. And Mars and Jupiter doesn't give a fuck in Aries about what other people think. It's about what you think, what you believe in, what you pray for, right? What you set intentions for, what you aim to learn, what you aspire to be. So we're letting ourselves be influenced by what other people think. And we hear conversations, at least I do all of the time in sessions, or sometimes when I'm shopping and overhearing a conversation or in a dressing room, you know, what would it look like? You know, will my partner approve? What will my parents think? You know, will they agree? What will my boss say? Who cares? The only person that you need approval from is you. You do not owe anybody an explanation. Granted, some of us have responsibilities, right? We are parents or we are partners. But Aries reminds us that we must be constantly working on ourselves. We are on our own personal path forward. You get in a relationship. Things don't just stop there. You can't just merge into the other person. A lot of people want to chase this theme of, I need the relationship, I need the relationship, I need the relationship. And if you happen to be lucky enough to see that all the way through, then you end up getting married or you end up moving in with somebody, then what? I would hope that a lot of you guys are aiming to have relationships be the icing on the cake. That if you are whole and if you are complete, then going into a relationship is just going to be that extra in your life, you know? I think the number one thing that I've seen, at least with clients, is that those who are happy prior to being in a relationship, those that are thriving, right? They're healthy, they're traveling, they have healthy friendships, they're really pleased with their life, they're making huge strides to be able to be the best version of themselves. Those are the people who are most likely to be successful in relationships. Those people. So we have to be more so focused on ourselves. And that's not limited to marriages or romantic relationships. This can be the relationships we have with our family, our friends, our business partners, our career. We cannot lose ourselves. We can't completely merge into these other people. Otherwise, we're going to lose our sense of identity. And that is what is so important about this transit. It takes courage to be different. And it takes courage to say no. Or I won't do that. Or I don't believe in that. Or, you know, I won't. It's big words that we're going to be using here soon. And yeah, it's possible that you're going to face people that will make you doubt. Okay, that's going to come all the time. You're going to hear people who are going to go, aren't you worried about, you know, what if it doesn't work out? What if it does? You know, be careful, because people can be very influential and people can make you change your mind and your goals in your life. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to make some of these changes. So we can't continue to keep allowing other people to influence the decisions that we're making and then look back in 15 years and go, I'm really not happy, because we followed what other people said, because we listened to, you know, what other people told us in terms of society we should or should not be doing. People will judge, and people at times when you start to succeed will also possibly be jealous, you know, and I think that this is a time to really pay more so attention to ourselves, put our blinders on, focus on what direction we're going in, right? Live the life that you want to live. Be your own leader. Don't live the life that others want you to live. Don't compare yourself to people down the street, you know, don't be trying to keep up with the Joneses. Stay focused on the direction that you're going in. And if you turn to courage when you get depressed, you will get moving. When you turn to courage when you don't feel motivated, you will get out of bed. And if you turn to courage when you feel hurt, you will also make the decision to surround yourself with people that are going to support you and uplift you. That's what we want. We want other people that want to help themselves. We want to help people that want to help themselves. We want to surround ourselves with people who are also taking the initiative and being self-starters. It's going to create this ripple effect where everybody then in turn is also going to go, yeah, you know what, I think I can do this too, yeah, right? I would say that, you know, courage can be something that can be something that can get you a long way. You know, if you're somebody that has to say goodbye to a loved one, courage can help you get through. Courage can help you say, I quit, whether it's smoking, eating all the sugar, your job, you know, feeling sorry for yourself. It can help you get out of bed in the morning, start your day, take time to meditate and reflect. It can help you also build a business. It can help you grow a business. It can help you expand and celebrate and be with other people. Courage can also give you the opportunity and the ability to pivot if that's something else that you feel like you need to be working on, especially in Aries. Remember that there's no shame in being different, that you live a life of purpose and happiness. It's just really important that you start thinking for yourself. You stop thinking about what you're not capable of or what other people will think. And if you do that, by default, you're going to help inspire and influence others to also find happiness. So I hope this gets you guys thinking about this. Just as a reminder, I'm going to let you know where each and every one of the 12 signs are having this Mars-Jupiter conjunction. Remember, it's about taking swift movement and action when it comes to your beliefs, when it comes to your faith, what you're learning, where you're going, initiating and starting something new. It will unfold as we go through the year in the fall, and then again in the new year. And I'm hoping that you guys all rise to the occasion. You use this as an opportunity to just get something new started. You move into this with a sense of excitement, because it's definitely going to be something that is very beneficial for each and every one of the 12 signs. So this is for whole sign. It's a Western prediction for the 12 signs. Please listen to your ascendant and then listen to your sun sign. You can also listen to your moon. I'm going to talk to you about where the Mars-Jupiter conjunction is taking place in your chart. And I will pull a card for you guys. I wasn't going to, but I'll do that because, you know, Jupiter likes to keep the optimism. Grab this. All right. So listen for your rising, your sun, and your moon sign, and I'm going to talk to you about which house. The house is where this action is taking place, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what Jupiter rules in your chart, just to kind of fuse this together and give you a little bit more of an idea of what is actually taking place for you. All right. For Aries and Aries rising, obviously you're the star of the show. This is happening in your sign, so you've got your chart ruler, Mars, aligning with Jupiter in your first house. Jupiter is the ruler of your 9th and your 12th. So you are exploring hidden realms, spiritual realms. You're growing and going deeper into your belief system or into your faith. Maybe you're feeling the travel bug. Maybe there's a sense of you wanting to complete some higher level of education. Maybe you're working with a guru. Maybe it's just all about your faith and your beliefs, and where you're really starting to believe more in yourself. You're believing in your dreams, in new philosophies, new practices that may come from foreign places. The card that I got for you is the Three of Wands. So where are you going, Aries? Where are you going? You might be planning a trip. You might be already kind of on the move. There can be a sense of you really focusing on a voyage, right? And it can be like a spiritual voyage. It doesn't have to be a physical, but definitely the Three of Wands makes me feel like there is a sense of you being like, okay, I know my end goal. You know, this is what I'm hoping to accomplish. This is what I'm hoping to complete. Some of you guys may be going on retreats. There might be something like that happening where you have to physically go somewhere to go through some kind of initiation or possibly some kind of training. For Taurus and Taurus rising, you have the Mars-Jupiter conjunction setting up in your 12th house. I've talked about this a little bit, Taurus. There can be some really significant moods going on for you. Keep in mind this is happening in your 12th house, which is a lot of spiritual energies. So there's stuff that's kind of going on that can make you feel restless, can make you feel kind of anxious, kind of reactionary. Dance can be really helpful throughout this transit because Mars can be helping you kind of break that down, and just know that whether you're feeling restless or having trouble sleeping, this is going to clear. I have a feeling also because Jupiter has a real strong connection to your 8th and also your 11th house, that there is a change and a transformation of your goals. And it requires you to work with other people. And the fact that as long as you're kind of partnering up with other people, especially if they are out of your comfort zone or what you're working on with them is out of your comfort zone, that there is this total change and transformation of your beliefs. But there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So to some extent, I get the impression that this is also about you letting certain things stay private or remain private right now. You know, for this conjunction to be happening in your 12th house, there can also be endings, and there is a sense of having to release and kind of let things go. And, you know, the 8th house, which Jupiter rules for you, does have some connection to death and rebirth and transformation. Now this makes sense because the card that I pulled for you is the Ten of Swords, so it's about recovery, recovering from something. This is an ending, okay? So this is completing a cycle, but some kind of anxiety, worry, you're releasing it, you're letting it go. Maybe you're worried about ending a job, maybe you're worried about moving, maybe you're worried about whether or not you're going to have enough resources, but this is where this change and transformation is about releasing all of that and getting it out, so that way you're not carrying it around with you and you don't feel like you're kind of carrying that mood and allowing it to kind of affect you and just how you go about your day. Might need more rest and recuperation as well, especially if you're recovering from something. For Gemini and Gemini rising, we have got this Mars-Jupiter conjunction setting up in your 11th house. This is the area of your life that deals with goals. And, you know, the Jupiter aspect here is both the ruler of your 7th and your 10th. So I think that there's big goals that are setting up that you're accomplishing with other groups of people. There can be really big changes happening in regards to your career and who you're partnering with your relationships. It can also be a really positive time for your partners or your business partners because it involves your 7th and your 10th house lord. Business parties, gatherings, networking, stuff like that's kind of happening, and you're just gonna, like I said in previous videos, you're gonna have a very busy social, you know, kind of setup going on. There's gonna be a lot of places you have to be, but I think that they're going to be very positive and they're going to be very joyous, and you're going to feel like you're just meeting the right people at the right time, which could help further some of your like professional endeavors, or it can also really further anything in regards to bringing other people on who you could partner with in business. It's just all about networking and who you're meeting, you know? And maybe you're joining a larger company or anything like that, because the 11th house can deal with bigger companies. So maybe you're either starting a company with someone, maybe you're joining a new company, maybe there's something that you're celebrating with, like some kind of merger. That could be another way that this can go. For you, I get the King of Wands, so it's about taking action, taking movement. Are you going to meet an Aries or a Leo or a Sag? Are they going to help you with some kind of merger? Are you just being more courageous and feeling more excited and adventurous when it comes to some of the new endeavors? This is a card that likes to party, likes to have a good time, somebody who is very confident in whatever it is that they're building or creating in general, and there is an overall sense of increased optimism that also comes with the King of Wands as well. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you have this Mars-Jupiter conjunction setting up in your 10th house. Now, Mars is the ruler of your 10th house, obviously, but Jupiter rules your 6th and your 9th. So this makes me wonder, in order for you to start a new business, do you have to go through some kind of training? Do you have to hire somebody? Do you need a new space? Are you having to commute to another space? Do you have to travel for work now? What's happening? What's going on? Are you going back to school? Are you learning new traits? That's something else that you could be doing, or trades. And adding more tools to your toolbox. Now, 6 deals with sometimes delays, sometimes it can deal with like accidents. So the other way I would look at this is watch out for getting hurt on the job, Cancer, or any legal stuff in relation to injuries at work, or if you've been going through like a lawsuit related to that, there can be some really positive kind of turns of events that put the odds in your favor. For the most part, I think this conjunction in your 10th house, though, is just expansion in your personal life. And some of you guys might be outgrowing your office space. Some of you guys might finally need to hire an assistant or hire staff. Some of you guys are realizing that it's time for you to go and start your own business. And it's about figuring out kind of like your niche and how you can really bring people in because of what you specialize in general. And overall, it's a very good omen for you starting new business endeavors. Really good. The card that I get is another king. We've got the King of Pentacles. So this is going to be about your mind on your money on your mind. Focusing on being on top, right? This is like, you know, the king of the castle. Of course, this is happening in your 10th house, which has that kind of earthly Capricorn energy. So you're thinking more about your long-term goals and like being able to be the master of your career, being in charge. Some of you guys may get offered a higher position. Some of you guys may get a bonus or a pay raise, or you have a different title. But this can also be about you going, I'm in charge now. It's easier for me to be my own boss. I'm sick of building it for other people. I want to build it for myself. Keen sense of business savviness too, being really tuned in to just like, you know, what is going to be successful, and really being willing to take the time and the energy and the physical labor into building it. For Leo and Leo rising, you have Mars and Jupiter aligning in your natal 9th house. Now, obviously Mars rules your 9th house, but seeing that Jupiter, which is the Lord of your 5th and your 8th, is coming into conjunction, philosophy about children, romance, creativity is changing. There can be a sense also, if you were involved in travel or law or education, seeing a nice little pay increase, bonuses, things like that, because Jupiter rules your 8th. This can be about traveling with children. This can be about finding love abroad, finding love on your own, right? So if you're traveling more, maybe you're just kind of learning to love yourself more. Maybe you're learning to be more in tune with what it means to have fun, and investing more in that. You might spend a little bit more money on travel and leisure and having a good time. But I think for a lot of you, this is a really positive energy because, you know, you're a fellow fire sign, so it's going to make positive aspects to either your ascendant or your sun or your moon. And there's a lot of action going on, so I think there is a lot of travel, but there is also like this turning point where you're realizing that there's huge changes and transformations going on in your heart, and you're really opening yourself up to love again and changing or transforming the story revolving around love and relationships and how relationships go. You may meet somebody who is very culturally diverse than you, very different, maybe from a different place. That's something else that I would look for. And if you're involved in education as well, there can be a sense of you needing to work with younger people, okay? So the card that I got for you is the 8 of Coins. So are you working? Are you having to work abroad? Are you working and traveling? Are you falling more so in love with your profession? Are you realizing you love something so much that it's time to teach it, right? Eight of Coins can be about working hard, but it's about perfecting something. So this is like going to work on a new course, going to work on a new book, and really, really putting all of the finishing touches and like perfecting what it is that you have created so you can make money off of it. It could be something that could be very lucrative. It's going to take time, and there is a sense of needing to put either time or money into what you're building, but I feel like you're becoming the best at what you do. For Virgo and Virgo rising, you have got Mars and Jupiter meeting in your natal 8th house. Now, the 8th house deals with joint resources, other people, taxes, inheritances. And it's interesting because you have Aries in this house. So it does have like the money that you spend, your primal desires, what you go after, what you're attracted to. Now, it can also be about money owed. So I think what's interesting / unusual is that this involves the conjunction of Jupiter, which rules your 4th and your 7th house. So 4th and 7 are angular houses. They're incredibly active. This tells me that, similar to Gemini, you're going to have a lot of action going on in your life that's going to be very different and very unusual. Now, for you personally, I think that this is about how you're looking at joint resources differently, and the fact that you can actually pay things off, get ahead, maybe bring in more with the assistance or the help of other people. For some Virgos and Virgo risings, this can be about family helping support you with something, helping pay off a loan. It can be about somebody signing to help you get your first home. It can be about you moving in with a romantic partner, or talking about, saving money, and maybe you decide that instead of going back and forth between two places, to get ahead, it's easier to put your resources together and live together. This can also bring up themes in regards to death and inheritance, because the 8th house is inheritance and Jupiter is the lord of your 4th, especially stuff pertaining to grandparents, because that could be the 7th house. So I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, but there can be wealth that comes in with Jupiter and Mars in your 8th very suddenly, because somebody has transitioned, but there can be some stuff revolving around taxes or homes or home sales or property that still needs to get worked out. Now, some of you guys have to pay something off as well, or you have to pay somebody back. The Mars-Jupiter conjunction can be this sense of having to pay your taxes, having to pay more taxes, having to pay spousal support, child support, or needing that from another person. It can be wonderful for just learning more about Tantra, Kundalini, sacred sex, and the exchange of energy between you and another person, okay? The card that I got for you is Judgment. Swift decisions. I'm wondering if some of you guys have like school or educational loans that have been put on hold, and I've heard some Virgo and Virgo risings that are like, yeah, my school ended up being kind of discredited and I took out a loan and I'm waiting to see if they're going to forgive it. For some people, it's been them finding out that now, time is up and they have to start paying their bills again, or they have to start paying their loans off again, or their student loans. And so Judgment is saying that you're waiting on a decision, you're waiting on somebody to say something. Whatever comes about with that Judgment card, it's saying Judgment is being served. So it's about situations playing out that you have been waiting to hear back from for some time, and like whatever decision is made, it's going to be definitive. It's definite. It's not going to change. You're not going to go back on it. Maybe some of you guys are waiting for a judgment, a legal judgment. Maybe you're waiting for somebody to decide whether or not you are going to be getting spousal support or child support, or how much money you owe somebody because of a legal situation. For Libra and Libra rising, we've got Mars and Jupiter conjuncting in your 7th house. Mars is the ruler, obviously, of your 7th house, but Jupiter being involved is highlighting both your 3rd and your 6th. And this is telling me that there is a need to engage with other people and be communicating about your schedule, and it can be bringing in like new relationships, new partnerships, new collaborations, new romantic partners, and the need to kind of really communicate thoroughly in relationships when it comes to your schedule, what you do or do not have time for, and also making sure that you're communicating clearly, because it's activating your 3rd house. So sending emails, being on time, staying on top of a schedule, being able to communicate with a partner when you're traveling, so that way you guys can kind of stay on task. For those of you guys who are working with other people, or you're just having miscommunication issues with your partners, there might be like a real benefit in merging a digital schedule, so that way you're not like making mistakes and missing meetings or late for stuff. On the flip side, I think it can bring in new counselors, people who can be helping you like locally as well. If you're wanting to grow like social media, or if you need to hire people to kind of help you with a job, you might bring in new people to help you do that. So it's great if you need like an assistant. It's also wonderful just for communicating and collaborating with other people. So if you're somebody who has like social media, or if you have a podcast, or if you have an online, program, or if you do any teaching, collaborations are going to come about. You're going to start seeing people show up very quickly. These can be people who are younger. These can be people who are very eager. These can also be people who are foreigners, or they're like different cultural backgrounds in general. So watch for that. Wonderful time for traveling with partners, though. I think that that's the big thing that I'm kind of seeing here, that, you're going to be able to kind of communicate and express and explain to them, like, if you need a break or if you want to go somewhere. Now, the card that I get is the Six of Cups, which is interesting because I feel like this is about people coming back to you or reflecting on things, or kind of communicating like, hey, it'd be nice to see you again. It'd be nice to kind of reconnect, get back together. This can be a card that is also about like reflecting on sweeter times, or just communicating more sweetly to other people, which is kind of funny because Aries is a little bit more abrasive in its nature. But I think that this is about being like, come on, let's go have fun. Remember when we went to this place? Let's go back there. Let's go and do that again. That was a good time. And trying to kind of maintain the sweetness, or bring back the kind of the lovey-doveyness in a relationship. If you're waiting to hear back from somebody, like after a date or a job interview or anything like that, this is also a really good indication that you're going to be hearing back from them again, and that they'll want to talk to you or collaborate with you. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, pay attention because this is involving your chart ruler, similar to Aries and Sagittarius. So you've got the Mars-Jupiter conjunction in your natal 6th. Now, Jupiter rules your 2nd house of money, resources. It's also food. In your 5th house, which deals with playtime, creativity, children. So on one hand, this conjunction is a little irritating for Scorpio rising because you have to make changes in your schedule for the better. You have to create those changes. Maybe you're working out more. Maybe you're changing what you're eating. Maybe you're learning more about the food that you're putting in your body. Maybe you're learning that you've been kind of partying hard a little bit too much, and there's a need to kind of scale back a little bit and focus on your health. But Jupiter is about information and expansion, and I feel like there can be delays also with like launching new creative businesses. There can be delays specifically related to investments, and you're waiting for investments to play out because the 6th house does bring delays sometimes. But this is about being of service and helping. So with the 2nd and 5th Lord being involved is like, are you having to spend a little bit more time with your kids? Are you having to arrange your schedule so you can welcome a new child? Are you having to make more time for a new hobby? You're trying to launch your own business and realizing that it's going to cost money or time to be able to initiate this. I think it's interesting because 2nd and 5th house are financial houses, so it's kind of saying like maybe there's a sense of you getting some of this stuff organized and kind of setting things up in a very timely manner. But for the most part, I think being that it's involving your chart lord, it's trying to help you sort and sift through what is worthy of your time or your resources, and needing to make adjustments. Maybe so you have more time for having fun as well. You need to have more time to have fun. Make workouts fun, maybe. Do things that are going to allow you to get them done very swiftly and very quickly, especially if you have other things that are taking up your schedule. But the 6th house can also be about giving to, not a service, but giving to something that you feel in tune with, and needing to make certain sacrifices for people who are in need. Now, this is interesting because I get the 2 of Cups for you. So that's interesting. So it's talking about it more in a relationship sense, like it's about what other people need as well, and you might kind of feel like you're running around, you're having to do a lot for everybody, but this can be about a partnership or a relationship needing you, making sacrifices. I mean, the 6th is the 12th to the 7th, so there can be a sense of like you needing to run around and do things to help your partner. They need you, but in turn, they have something to offer you as well. This can be about new partnerships, so also new partnerships at work, meeting new employees or coworkers. This can be about trainers and other people who have something. They can help heal you. They're offering you some kind of healing ability or some kind of knowledge or information, right? Okay, so for Sag and Sag rising, you have got Mars and Jupiter meeting in your natal 5th house. Now, this is all going to be about romance. This is about expansion of the heart, children, childhood themes. It can even be your home. But because you see that, Jupiter rules both your 1st and your 4th, there's this overflow of like emotions. There can be good blessings in the home, a bigger space, moving to a new place, moving to a new country, having new people come and visit your home, stuff like that. It can be that you have to expand your home because you're living with a romantic partner, you need more creative space, or maybe you're welcoming a child. So it really kind of depends. Obviously, this is going to be more general. It's going to differ from person to person, but I'm very interested to see how this works with Sagittarius, because I feel like for those of you guys who want your own space, or you want a more wall, space to kind of display some of your art and your creative projects, if you need an art or a craft room, maybe you need an extra room because you need an office for your business or for your hobbies. This can definitely be something that happens, but keep in mind it's taking place in your natal 5th house. So your heart can be exploding with new hobbies that you're really passionate about, new romantic partners, working with younger people, working with children. I'm wondering if it's like publishing or teaching children or younger people. That's the other way that I could look at this. But just general terms, because Jupiter rules your ascendant and it also rules your 4th, it's going into the 5th, many people are going to be having more love in their private life, more love in their home with romantic partners, or maybe even with children. So the card that I get for you is, very interesting, 7 of Cups. Sorry, I just dropped it. 7 of Cups. It's like all of the options. It's like, I don't know, what color do I want to paint all of these new bedrooms, or what if it works out? What if it doesn't? There's a lot of like vulnerability, I think, that's coming up for you right now. There's a lot of different options. Maybe you're looking at a variety of different options in terms of where you could live, or new hobbies or projects. You can be overwhelmed with all the choices. So if you are one of those people who's building a home, renovating a home, moving into a new home, it's a lot of like looking at swatches, looking at rugs, looking at different things, and you're like overwhelmed with wanting to be creative, but having way too many options or choices kind of in front of you that you get overwhelmed. There can also be working through fears and illusions, working through issues that have been possibly plaguing you since your childhood, that goes back to your roots, that kind of hinder your abilities to be emotional or vulnerable, right? So that's something else. Like if you feel like you didn't get the chance to really experience a lot of playtime or creative time in your childhood, there can be a sense of going back to that and being more imaginative and more creative. And I think it's about giving yourself the time and the space to be able to do that, okay? For Capricorn and Cap rising, you have got Jupiter and Mars meeting in your natal 4th house, which deals with your home and your family. Now, Jupiter rules your 3rd and your 12th, so I have a feeling, those of you guys who have family members in other places, overseas possibly, there can be a little bit of strife going on with family overseas. There can also be a sense of needing to communicate and get documents signed for family members, especially if you're feeling responsible for taking care of parents or taking care of estates or properties. That can be something else that's happening. Getting stuff set up for like wills or end of life care is the other way that I could look at this. Now, because Jupiter is the lord of your 12th and your 3rd, and it's meeting in the 4th, it's also your intuition being on like full alert. Like you're going to be more aware of just getting these feelings before you get phone calls, before you get text messages, maybe having a feeling that you're going to have a conversation with somebody because you saw it in a dream, and then it's going to like pop up and you're going to be like, whoa, this is weird. I had a feeling this was going to happen. This is Jupiter's way of helping you kind of gain a little bit of foresight and like teaching you how to like really trust in your emotions. Now, on the flip side, this can also be having to have more serious, intimate, private conversations with a parent, talking to them about their mental or their emotional health, talking to them also about some of their beliefs or some of their philosophies. Maybe you're studying and you're learning more about your family heritage. Maybe there's secrets coming out that are needing to come out, and it's as a result of having conversations with family members that feel like they need to get something off their chest. I could also see this as just moving to a new space, like moving into a new space, a bigger space. It's happening physically in your 4th house, but it's like needing your own space, needing your own room, buying your first house, maybe having a separate room for you to be able to be working on. Maybe you're organizing your kitchen. Maybe you're having some conflict with your current family members that you live with, or maybe even your roommate saying like, we got to like make some changes around the kitchen. We got to organize things, like I'm taking the task to do it. I say the 4th house because that's generally the kitchen in general. Pay attention though. I think your intuition is going to be on full alert. And I also get the impression that some of you guys might be either learning about new languages or new places that you could be moving to. So maybe you might be looking at like moving to another country, but you need to learn the language first. You're doing some research. There can also be a sense of you wanting to learn new languages because you want to travel. So that's the other way that I could see this. And it might be like places that your family originates from, right? The card that I got for you is the King of Swords. We've pulled all the kings but the King of Cups. So the King of Swords is coming up. This is about communication, sharing your ideas, talking to people, being more assertive, especially with Mars being in the mix. It's like telling family what's up, or, you know, telling people, you know, build this, renovate that, knock that wall down. You're just being more direct with this. And this is more an intellectual card. This is an air element, so being that it's happening in the 4th house is just, maybe you're just more matter of fact about your feelings more than usual. Maybe there's a sense of you feeling like you really need to put more oomph behind your words, and a lot more kind of walking the walk and talking the talk. Look for air signs, they may pop up. So it could be a Libra or a Aquarius or a Gemini that can get involved in some way as well. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you have Mars and Jupiter meeting in your natal 3rd house. Now, this is dealing very specifically with communication, short distance trips, vehicles, but specifically Jupiter is the ruler of your 2nd, which is money, and your 11th, which is friends and associations. So I feel like maybe you're having to spend a little bit more money going on short distance trips. Maybe you're getting invited out of town. Maybe you're thinking about adding somehow to a vehicle to make it more comfortable for long distance trips, especially if you're going places with friends. There may be a need to start communicating and vocalizing what your professional goals are, and especially how that kind of ties to like money and resources, because Jupiter's the lord of your 2nd. Now it's happening in your 3rd, so it'll be contracts, meetings, things involving vehicles, things involving siblings, cell phones, possibly even initiating conversations with people, because it's Aries, with some of your friends about your financial goals, getting real fired up about something that you might be learning with them. So if you're wanting to learn more about trade, maybe even like stock stuff, maybe you're wanting to learn more about cryptocurrencies, I could see that you're taking more of an initiative to go and learn about this stuff, to be reading forums, buying books, joining groups, and then sharing that with other people and sharing some of your goals when it comes to money and resources. And you're really excited about it. Be careful with like making an impulse buy with a vehicle though. That could happen, especially because your friend's like, I got the newest blah blah blah, and you're like, I'm gonna get that too because so and so has it. Like, that can kind of happen. But watch for insightful conversations where you can really become more aware of your values, and you can like share that information with some of your friends. Now the card that I get is the 8 of Wands. It's about energy moving very swiftly, very quickly. I get the impression this is about you being like, I got to pick up and go. I need a break. I need to go away for a little bit. Even if it's on your own, there may be a sense of there being like a lack of planning, but like being really excited and really motivated. Maybe you're starting a new course. It's just there's a lot more energy and motivation. Aries has that, but being that it's fueling your ascendant, and it's also going to start sextiling Saturn, that you're going to start realizing that when you commit to something, when you say that you're going to do something, it's going to stick. Right? And there's going to be this uptick in things getting faster and more quicker and more moving much more quickly. And the need for you to, I think, when it starts sextiling Saturn, be like, yeah, I said I was going to do this and here it is, I did it. So also giving yourself that pat on the back for being able to really bring some of your intentions to light. I think that's going to be a wonderful energy for you. And last but not least, we have Pisces. So you've got Mars and Jupiter meeting in your 2nd house of money and resources. Mars is action, Jupiter is expansion. So you got to watch those credit cards. You might be feeling a little spend happy. But what's interesting is that, you know, it does relate to Jupiter being the ruler of your chart and also the 10th house. So there's something about maybe you having to spend money on your own business, spending money on your image. People who need to go and buy new wardrobes for, you know, headshots or for business meetings. Maybe you're wanting to create much more of like a refined look for what you're doing in your professional life. 2nd house can be spending more money on beauty, routine, food. Being that Mars and Jupiter are going there, you're making purchases possibly on You know, things that you want to possess or things that you desire, but they will be very quick. And I would say just be careful, because we're going to see Mars square Pluto, and you want to make sure that you're not just buying things to feel fulfilled, because that can be coming kind of down the road. But the first house is the body, the 10th house is career, and being that it's meeting in the second is needing to invest in yourself. And whether that's investing in what you're eating and investing in your health, whether that's putting a little bit of money into your own personal business, maybe there's a sense of you realizing, like, I've leveled up, I need to charge more, I'm worth more. That could be another way that this could play out as well. Self-esteem is a big theme in the second house. And so I would say there's a lot of like reminding yourself, like, I am worthy, I am capable, you know, I am rising to the occasion. I am going to be bringing this in. I am is a big theme that comes up with Aries in general. So I would say pay attention to all of that stuff. I think there is like a sense of you really starting to kind of believe in these things. You're not just saying it, you're believing in it. And you're starting to see it kind of really manifest for you moving forward, especially when it comes to the dollar signs and the wealth that you're bringing in. The card that I get is Four of Wands. So this is celebratory, meeting smaller goals, being able to, I think, celebrate yourself, celebrate your accomplishments, celebrate how far you've come. This can be about you coming together with people outside, like parties, gatherings, get-togethers. Maybe you're spending a little bit more money on like a barbecue set, right, Aries? Maybe you're spending a little bit more money on food and learning more about quality food and educating yourself on cooking for yourself. So you're having to buy some like, you know, like equipment, some kitchen equipment. And then you decide, well, I want to show off my skills. I want to host, you know, that can be another way that this can kind of play out. But it is about celebrating the right now, being in the present. And I think I would say this for anybody. This is something I failed to mention in my previous Aries videos that I'm kind of kicking myself for not bringing up. But the Ram Dass lecture, because very Aries energy, be here now. I think that's probably the best thing that I could recommend to anybody who is wanting to better understand these energies now, right, Aries. And with Mars and Jupiter, it's seizing the moment. What are we learning in this moment? What are we learning by being present? You know, the future is created right now. So if you're so worried about the future, be present right now in what you're doing and what you're actually experiencing, what you're learning about taking the very first steps, right? And we have to let go of all of the, you know, concerns about the future. We have to forgive ourselves for the past. We have to really be present and realize that if we can seize the opportunity in the moment, then we're learning a lot about ourselves. We're learning how to be more courageous. We're learning how to be more independent. And we're thinking independently and building the life that we want, right? And becoming leaders. Because everybody wants to be a leader. You know, the truth is, everybody wants to be a leader. Everybody kind of peaks up. I'm a leader. You're a leader until you have to go against the grain. You're a leader until you have to say, you know what, this isn't in alignment for me, and I don't believe in this, and I'm sorry, but I can't get behind this, so I have to go my own way. You know? It's not easy to stand out. It's not easy to be different, but all of us are going to start realizing that we have all these natural talents. And maybe the wound with Chiron and Aries is where we have not been listening to that, where we have been not being true to ourselves. I think that's the wound. That's the Chiron and Aries wound, not being true to ourselves. And where that, I think, lies the issue of not living to our fullest potential. Okay? This was a long video. It was lots of rambling. Sorry, guys. Mercury retrograde. I'm having Mercury opposition, so I'm doing the best that I can. I had a video, you know, this video stopped somewhere around Sagittarius. I'm going to have to edit it down, so hopefully it makes sense. Let me know, where is this conjunction of Mars and Aries happening in your chart? Where are you being courageous? I encourage you guys to find one thing every day for the next couple of days that scares you. Go and do that thing. If it's calling somebody up and forgiving them, if it's going skydiving, if it's going and asking somebody if they want to be your friend, if it's taking a new course, if it's quitting your job, whatever it is, what are you afraid of? Focus on what you're afraid of. Be courageous. Okay? Rise to the occasion. And let me know in the comments below how you're feeling it. Where is it happening for you? What steps have you taken to overcome fear? And where are you focusing on being more true to yourself? Thanks again. I will see all of you guys very soon. I'll be back on Sunday doing the astro weather. But before that, on Saturday, we're going to be doing live readings, live astrology readings. I'm going to post that link later today, if you'd like to get in the queue, if you'd like to make a donation, all readings are going to be live on Saturday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll look at your chart. You can ask whatever you want about transits or a natal aspect. It's a great way to kind of get a feel for a reading with me. It's also a great way to get in and be able to get questions answered because I am booked through July. It's crazy. So if you want to get a one-on-one session with me, check out my links below. Check out my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. You can follow my social media. You can also check out my podcast, the Midheaven podcast that I do with the Peace Dealer. If you want more laughs and kind of a little bit more, I think just, yeah, it's just immature and fun stuff, but you know, we have a good time, and we bring information about transits and what's going on astrologically to light with a little bit of comedy, humor, and some mixed strengths. So hopefully you guys like that. I will see all of you very soon. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.